After just 3 weeks on a carnivore diet, I lost 6.5 pounds and my body fat dropped from 11 to 8.5%, which is the lowest by far that I've ever seen on a DEXA scan and probably the lowest I've ever been in my entire life. I decided to try a carnivore diet after hearing Dr. Jordan Peterson talk about the benefits that he received from it. So when I started the diet, I took his advice when implementing it.
If you want to try a diet like this, you eat enough meat and fat so you're not hungry. Okay, you can't get hungry. You're not eating enough if you're hungry.
This means that I ate as much as I wanted whenever I wanted. And when Jordan started the diet, he said that
I'm nowhere near as hungry as I used to be. My appetite's probably fallen by 70%.
if you eat 70% less food, then it's not surprising you're going to lose some body fat. Most nutritional experts, regardless of their dietary philosophy, are going to tell you that calorie restriction is the most important factor when it comes to fat loss.
We both agree that in terms of weight loss and body composition, that your total calorie intake per day is the most important thing.
And specific diets will be better than others because they're more effective at regulating how much food you eat.
Correct?
Yes, and I believe the ketogenic strategy is a way to regulate that.
Right.
If this logic is true, then that would almost completely explain why the carnivore diet causes weight loss.
Do you guys think that that's what's going on with this carnivore diet?
Yeah, the people, it's hard now.
I think it's a calorie restriction effect, probably.
It's hard
and
to
an
overeat
elimination
meat.
diet effect.
Like, look at, if I give you a plate of French fries, like 200 grams of French fries, you can get a lot of calories from that. If I give you 200 grams of meat, even a real fatty meat, it's not nearly the same. Like, you're going to be much more satiated from the protein. Mm-hmm. Like, you can only eat so much meat, you know?
If you eat more meat, you regulate your appetite and consume less calories overall. Another argument which supports this is that if you eat the same thing every single day, you're going to become bored with it and you'll overeat less than you would if you had more variety in your diet.
So people actually eat less when they're having a higher protein diet, which makes sense too because protein is more satiating as well. There's also been studies on what's called food habituation, where basically, so habituation is when you're constantly exposed to the same stimulus, you sort of have a decreased response to that stimulus. Where there's been intervention trials where people are given the same food every single day versus people that are given the same food once a week. And the people that are given the same food every single day, they start to eat less calories. So they start to eat less, naturally start to caloric restrict themselves. So, I mean, and it's kind of like a dietary monotony sort of thing.
Maybe I didn't follow the diet for long enough, or maybe I'm just a complete glutton, because this does not explain why I lost weight on the carnivore diet. In the first 3 days, I lost 3 pounds, and I was getting concerned that I must not be eating enough food. So I started tracking my calories without changing what I was eating, and it turns out that I was, on average, eating over 4,000 calories a day. Normally eating 3,800 calories a day would cause me to put on a pretty significant amount of body fat, which to me pretty much completely disproves the hypothesis that the only reason you're losing weight on a carnivore diet is because you're restricting your calories.
There's a researcher online that I've been in contact with. His name's Kevin Bass, but he also brought up this possibility that it could be calorie restriction that these people are dealing with.
That's one hypothesis, and that seems to be the one everyone's sort of gravitating to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't restrict my calories at all. I ate a surplus. So this would also nullify the hypothesis that calories alone are responsible for people gaining fat. Nutritional journalist Gary Taubes is in a small minority of people who argue that carbs, not calories, are the main culprit when it comes to gaining fat and causing people to become obese.
There's this fundamental argument that, look, we don't get fat because we eat too much. We get fat because the carbohydrates in our diet cause this hormonal metabolic dysregulation that makes us store calories of fat in our fat cells. And that implies that the healthiest diet for those of us who get fat are diets absent easily digestible carbs and sugars.
A lot of people will find him controversial and dismiss Gary.
But when you have people who, like a Gary Taubes, who says, well, calories don't matter. It's all carbohydrates. What they don't talk about is that it's overall fat balance, how much fat you store versus how much fat you burn. And when you're on a high-fat diet, you store a lot of fat. You also burn a lot of fat. The overall caloric balance is what determines whether or not you will have net storage or net deposition.
But from my experience, I could almost guarantee that he's onto something. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence that Gary cites was a study which compared people on a higher fat Atkins diet, which allowed them to eat as much food as they wanted, with a group of people on a lower fat, calorie restricted American Heart Association diet.
So the Atkins diet is what scientists call the anomalous observation. So what you're always looking for in science is the anomalous observation. That's the thing that doesn't fit with any of your beliefs. You've got a theory that says this, and then you find that. And now you've got a way to come up with a better theory because you've got something else you have to explain that your present theory doesn't. And it's the anomalous observations that move science forward. It's the thing that just doesn't fit with your belief. So here's these diet trials where you got the Atkins diet, high in fat, high in saturated fat, so it should give you heart disease. Double quarter pounder with cheese, no bun, lobster Newburg, eggs, bacon, sausage. And you're allowed to eat as much as you want. Okay, so it's not a calorie-restricted diet. It's ad libitum. As long as you don't eat carbs, you could have 8 eggs for breakfast and a rasher of bacon and, whole chicken for lunch. So the other theory, one theory is the fat is going to cause heart disease, and the other theory is that the eat as much as you want. You tell a fat person eat as much as they want, they're going to get fatter, right? Because we think they got fat to begin with because they ate too much. And then you compare those people to people you put on an American Heart Association low-fat diet and you tell them to calorie restrict. In all 5 of these trials, the people on the Atkins diet not only lost more weight than the ones on the calorie-restricted American Heart Association low-fat diet that all American people were supposed to be eating. So that refutes the eating too much hypothesis, because these guys on the Atkins diet can eat as much as they want. But their heart disease risk factors are better. Okay, so they're supposed to die of heart disease. You eat the bacon, it clogs your arteries, you fall over dead. But they were healthier, so it refutes the heart disease thing too. So there's the anomalous observation. How do you explain that?
So when I originally heard this, I thought for sure that the people on the higher fat diet were just in ketosis and they had less of an appetite and naturally ate less, while the people on the calorie restricted diet probably just underreported what they were actually eating. But now that I've personally experienced this weight loss on a calorie surplus, I'm not so convinced that that was the case. I think that, well, for some people, some of the weight loss benefits definitely come from restricting their calories on a carnivore diet. There's also a huge benefit that comes from the changes in hormones that Gary was mentioning earlier. But I'm also not sure that the carnivore diet doesn't have some longer-term health consequences that would completely negate all of the benefits you get from losing weight.
When you're talking about most people's cases, you're talking about 1 year, maybe 2 years, sometimes even less, where they're having these benefits. And as you're saying, it's entirely possible that they're setting themselves up for some potential long-term damage.
It is. It's definitely possible. And again, at the end of the day, there's no data. There's no data, so you can't say for sure, right?
Right.
There's no data. But I have concerns, and we can talk about those concerns for sure. I would like to.
That's why I'm currently testing a ketogenic diet, which is very similar to an Atkins diet, to see whether or not I can get the same benefits that I got in a carnivore diet while also letting myself eat vegetables and having more variety in my food. If you want to see what happens, then subscribe to the channel and I'll keep you updated. If you like this video, please help out, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. Let me know, have you tried any calorie restrictive diets? Have you found that you got more benefits from restricting carbs or restricting calories when it comes to weight loss? I'm really curious to see if other people's experience match my own with this. Until next time, thanks for watching.